Can Corla, and I welcome the opportunity to speak on this important debate. And I want to begin, as others have, by welcoming our visitors in the gallery and all of those who've worked for so long to see a proper regulatory framework in place. Organisations like Irish Families Through Surrogacy, Equality for Children, LGBT Ireland and Irish Gay Dads. And also just to thank all the individuals from civil society, from academia, from legal practice who've worked on this. I'm thinking of Dr. Conor O'Mahony, Annette Hickey, Maeve Delargy and Claire O'Connell and others. And I want to really particularly commend the Chair of the Committee, Deputy Whitmore, and her Vice Chair, Deputy Higgins, and indeed the Committee for producing such a clear and thoughtful and sensitively written report in such a tight time frame. I was appointed Chair of the Gender Equality Committee, which we had a very tight time frame. We thought of 9 months to consider the Citizens' Assembly recommendations on gender equality, and then I heard that Deputy Whitmore's committee was being given 3 months. So I really do want to commend you all for producing this report in such a timely fashion, and for the urgency you brought to bear on this. I'm very glad, on behalf of Labour, to support the recommendations, although I'm going to just highlight a number of issues that have been brought to my attention that I know, Minister, both of you have been engaging with groups and individuals on. I should say we have a strong track record in the Labour Party of pushing forward necessary legislative reforms to regulate child and family relationships and to ensure that diverse family forms are recognised. And there is now a cross-party consensus on this. And again, just to speak briefly on the Gender Equality Committee, of course our committee did recommend in December that a referendum should be held to ensure that the Constitution is amended, not just to delete sexist language about women and mothers, but also to insert a gender-neutral recognition of the value of care, and crucially to recognise more diverse forms of family beyond the family based on marriage. I'm really glad government is committed to holding that referendum in November, and clearly that's of huge relevance when we debate child and family relationships legislation, because we do need to ensure that our constitution recognises diverse family forms too, so that's very important. I was also, as a member of the Justice Committee, actively involved in previous debate around regulation of surrogacy in the lead up to the passage of the 2015 Child and Family Act, which was originally intended to include regulation on AHR and surrogacy. We didn't get to do that because there was an urgency about passing the legislation prior to the marriage equality referendum taking place. But I'm conscious of how complex this area is to regulate, because it certainly was something we couldn't do then. I don't think any of us on that committee foresaw that it would take nearly 10 years before we come to finally see legislation brought forward. And there's been such terrible uncertainty for so many families, some of whom are here in the gallery with us, during that period. And clearly there is a real urgency, particularly in respect of the retrospective declarations that need to be made. And I think that's recognised, and I do welcome the fact, Minister Donnelly, that you've confirmed that the retrospective declarations that process can proceed before, I understand, before the framework for prospective declarations is fully in place. And that's certainly... Well, yeah, I think indications have been given, and that's very welcome. Certainly parents I've spoken with and families I've spoken with are very anxious to see that proceed, and to see the issue of judicial discretion built into that. The judges will have some discretion there. I think that's very important. I think the report recognises that the case of retrospective parentage declarations is a separate one and needs a separate approach taken, a different approach taken. In terms of the prospective and the regulatory framework that's to be established through this, I entirely appreciate the need to bring these provisions forward through the existing AHR bill. That I think, and very heartening also to hear, Minister, you indicating you're hoping to do this before the summer recess. So that's really welcome to hear, but it is important that we get this right. And as I said, parents have raised with me a number of concerns around particularly which countries which other countries will be included in the arrangements, and which other countries will it be possible to have arrangements with. Clearly there is a need for a broad international framework here. I'm thinking, of course, as we do with the adoption procedures in the Geneva Convention, countries should abide by the Verona principles, and I know that's something that is of concern, is what other countries will be included, and indeed what level of reasonable expenses, what is the and again, I know the committee grappled with this. I read with great interest what you said around the payment issue, and clearly this is a really difficult issue. We grappled with this 10 years ago as well. Reasonable expenses, what does that envisage? Does it envisage beyond just altruistic? What happens when an agency is involved? So I think that there'll be a lot of concerns about what detail will be there. I think because this is a complex area, it is important that the balancing exercise is done right. I think we're all conscious, and it's again very well set out in the report, of the risk of exploitation, to ensure that the surrogate and even the language, again, I'm glad to see you interrogate the language, and that surrogate is the term you use because that's the term that was preferred by witnesses. But being conscious, we don't hear from surrogate mothers. We don't tend to, just by the nature of it, as much, and the language around that can be difficult. But I think the key thing is to ensure the regard, not only to ensure the rights of children born through surrogacy, the rights of intended parents and families of children born through surrogacy, but also, of course, the rights of surrogates, of surrogate mothers. And it's crucial, therefore, to ensure that there are safeguards there against the risk of exploitation, particularly relating to countries that are less developed or developing countries. And that's, again, built into the considerations in the report, and I'm really glad to see that. I think that's really important, and really strong recommendations around protection of bodily autonomy of the surrogate. I think that's of great, that's to be welcomed, I think, by us all. Could I just say, in conclusion, I know that there's going to be a great deal more time to debate the detail of this, and really just want to welcome very much the careful timeline you've provided, Minister. I do want to ask about the question of paid leave, surrogacy leave, which has been raised. It's referred to in the report. We've put down PQs on this. We've had quite a number of people come to us wondering when will that be in place, and I think that will have to be part of any regulatory framework. But I do just want to finish by saying, by commending all those involved in producing this delicate, this really careful report, and what is a difficult area and a sensitive area to regulate on, but to just to welcome it, because ultimately this is a very joyful endeavour. It's an endeavour to ensure that we're going to see proper legal frameworks for the welcoming of children and the welcoming of diverse family forms in our society, and that's hugely welcome.
Thank you very much.